Family, I need you to lean in and really hear me tonight, because there is a stirring in the atmosphere that can no longer be ignored. For so long we've been saying it's coming one day, maybe soon, but I came to tell you it's not just coming anymore. It has already started. The evidence is around us if we dare to open our eyes and stop pretending that we can't see it. The whispers that once lived in the shadows are now screaming on the rooftops. What used to be hidden under layers of culture, distraction, and denial is now parading in front of us, and too many of us are still acting as if life is business as usual. There was a time when the signs felt distant, when we thought we had more time to get it together, when we believed we could push preparation off to another season. But that time has passed. God's people have been lulled into a sense of slumber, thinking the warnings were for another generation, another crisis, another world. But when you look around, the confusion, the division, the unrest, the storms that don't just shake the weather, but shake the spirit, you realize we're living in the days we once only read about. It's already happening, and some of us still think we have the luxury of waiting. But waiting for what? For the shaking to get stronger, for the ground to break beneath our feet, for the voices of truth to be silenced until we can't hear them anymore. The Spirit is sounding the alarm. But alarms don't mean rest. Alarms mean wake up. Alarms mean get up. Alarms mean something is happening. And if you stay where you are, you're going to miss the chance to move into safety. Too many believers have been walking around asleep with their eyes open, going through the motions of church, quoting scriptures, singing songs, but never allowing the reality of what's unfolding to grip their spirit. We've been lulled into thinking that comfort is protection, but comfort has become the trap. While we're scrolling, while we're chasing likes, while we're numbing ourselves with the distractions of this world, the spiritual battle has already broken out around us. And you can't fight a battle you don't even believe is happening. The awakening is not comfortable. It shakes you out of bed when you'd rather sleep. It demands you stand when sitting feels easier. It pulls your spirit out of denial and forces you to look truth in the eye. And that truth is this: the days of pretending we can just blend in, hide our light, or delay our obedience are over. You cannot afford to play it safe anymore. Safe will cost you more than risk ever could in this season. I know it feels overwhelming to face it, because when you admit it's already started, then you can't hide behind someday anymore. You can't say, when I'm ready, I'll step up. When it's time, I'll surrender. When it gets serious, I'll pray harder. No, this is the moment. It's serious now. It's urgent now. It's demanding your faith now. Because if you're waiting for a sign that it's begun, you're already late to the fight. And here's the thing: God doesn't sound alarms to scare his people. He sounds alarms to prepare his people. He allows the shaking not to destroy us, but to awaken us. If you feel the pressure, it's because he's pulling you out of the shallow places. If you sense the heaviness, it's because he's calling you deeper. The alarms are proof that God still cares enough to warn you before the real collapse. They're not a punishment. They're an invitation. An invitation to stand up, to armor up, to wake up, because his kingdom is moving whether you move with it or not. So I came to tell you tonight, the season of slumber is over. The season of delay is over. It's not time to wonder anymore if it's happening. It's time to recognize it already has. You know what makes this moment so dangerous? It's not just the obvious storms, not just the earthquakes that shake the foundations, not just the chaos that splashes across headlines. What makes this moment so dangerous is the subtlety of distraction. See, the enemy doesn't always march in with horns blaring and fire falling. Sometimes he tiptoes into your life wearing the mask of convenience, the disguise of entertainment, the soft lullaby of comfort. And while you're rocking yourself to sleep in the rhythm of distraction, the war is raging around you. Distraction is sneaky because it feels harmless. It feels like scrolling just a little longer, binging just one more show, buying just one more thing to soothe the ache. Distraction is subtle because it doesn't always look sinful. It just looks easy. And isn't that what most of us are craving? Easy. We don't want to wrestle with the tension of growth. We don't want to sit in the silence where God exposes the truth about us. We don't want to confront the broken places that still need healing. So instead, we run to distraction, and before we know it, what started as a break has become a prison. The tragedy of distraction is that it doesn't announce what it's stealing. It doesn't tell you that while you were busy numbing the noise with your playlist, you missed the whisper of God's direction. It doesn't tell you that while you were chasing after everybody else's approval, your spirit was starving for God's presence. It doesn't tell you that while you were focused on what's trending, the truth was slipping through your fingers. Distraction doesn't knock you over in one blow. It drains you slowly, so subtly that you don't even realize how weak you've become until you try to stand. And right now, there are believers who think they're standing strong. But when the weight of what has already started presses down, they're going to find out distraction has left them unarmed. Because you can't fight battles you've been too busy to train for. You can't recognize deception if your spirit has been lulled to sleep by noise. You can't claim discernment if the only voice you've been listening to is the voice of culture. The enemy has always known he doesn't need to destroy you outright. He just needs to keep you distracted long enough for the fire to spread while you're looking the other way. That's why this season feels so heavy with urgency. Because while the alarms are sounding, too many of God's people are still locked into the rhythm of routine, missing that the shaking has already begun. And let me tell you, distraction doesn't just rob you of time. It robs you of clarity. It fogs your spirit until you can't tell the difference between what God promised and what the world advertised. It leaves you chasing substitutes for peace instead of running to the source of it. It leaves you so consumed with what you want in the moment that you miss what God is trying to build for eternity. And when the shaking comes, and it is already here, substitutes won't sustain you. Only the real thing will. I'm not saying this to condemn anybody, but to wake you up, to pull back the curtain so you can see what's really going on, because distraction is costing you more than you think. It's costing you your sensitivity to God's voice. It's costing you your readiness for the battle that's already started. It's costing you the depth of relationship that would sustain you when everything else around you begins to collapse. So you've got to ask yourself, what am I feeding my spirit with? What am I giving my attention to? Because attention is currency in the spirit. Where you invest your focus is where your strength will flow. If you keep feeding distraction, don't be surprised when you find yourself too weak to endure. But if you shift your gaze, if you start turning down the volume of the world and turning up the voice of God, you'll find a strength rising in you that distraction could never provide. This is not the hour to be lulled to sleep. This is not the season to keep numbing yourself with what feels easy, because it has already started. And if you are still caught up in the trap of distraction, you're going to miss the move of God that was meant to carry you through. Family, this is not the season for casual faith. This is not the time where we can afford to treat our walk with God like an accessory that we put on when it matches the outfit of our lives. Casual Christianity may have worked when the pressure wasn't as intense, when the shaking wasn't as visible, when the alarms weren't sounding as loud. But now we've stepped into a moment where the surface won't sustain us. The storms we're facing are too real, too heavy, too relentless to be met with shallow commitment. This is the hour of alignment, and it's no longer optional, it's critical. Alignment means more than just showing up on Sunday or saying grace over a meal. Alignment means heart, mind, and spirit pointed in the same direction as God's will. Too many of us have mastered the art of performing holiness while our hearts are far from Him. We've become skilled at playing church, quoting scriptures, posting verses, but living lives that don't carry the weight of surrender. And the truth is, the time for performance is over. God is not asking for polished routines. He's asking for authentic alignment. Think about it. You can be in the building and not be in the flow. You can wear the title and not carry the power. You can know the language and still lack the intimacy. Alignment is about stripping away the disconnect between what we say we believe and how we actually live. And in this season, that gap is dangerous because when the winds of what's already started begin to blow harder, the gap will be the place the enemy slips in. The gap is where doubt creeps, where compromise feels comfortable, where weakness disguises itself as wisdom. This is why alignment is so urgent. Because half-hearted faith will not hold in a full-scale battle. You cannot stand in authority if your heart is divided. You cannot call down heaven if your spirit is still clinging to earth. You cannot withstand the storm if you're still anchored to distractions that were never designed to hold you. The shaking isn't just exposing the world. It's exposing us. It's showing us where we've been pretending, where we've been procrastinating, where we've been talking a faith we haven't been living. And God in his mercy is saying, fix the alignment now before the weight increases. Alignment is costly. It means surrendering the things you've been excusing. It means confronting the parts of you that would rather blend in than stand out. It means admitting where you've been comfortable in complacency and choosing the narrow road anyway. But hear me, alignment may cost you comfort, but it will protect your calling. Alignment may strip you of convenience, but it will cover you when the storm breaks loose. And the beauty of alignment is that it doesn't require perfection. It requires direction. God isn't asking you to get every step right, but he is asking you to turn your heart fully toward him. Because when your heart is in alignment, his spirit will give you the strength to endure what your flesh never could. When your heart is in alignment, your prayers stop bouncing off the ceiling and start breaking through the atmosphere. When your heart is in alignment, your worship stops being performance and becomes power. But if we keep pretending, if we keep delaying, if we keep choosing surface over surrender, we're going to find ourselves empty when the weight of what's already started falls heavy. And I don't know about you, but I refuse to be caught off guard. I refuse to be found with a title but no oil, with a lamp but no fire, with a name but no power. This is the moment where God is calling his people higher, deeper, stronger, not just in word but in alignment. So let this be the wake-up call. No more divided loyalty, no more surface religion, no more casual faith. It's time to align our hearts, our minds, and our spirits with the will of God, because the season of pretending is over and the season of standing has already begun. This is not the moment for a passive kind of faith. This is not the season where we can afford to just sit back and hope things work themselves out. When the atmosphere shifts the way it has, when the shaking becomes undeniable, when the alarms are blaring all around us, you don't have the luxury of living unprepared. This is the hour to put on your armor. This is the time to stop treating prayer as an option and start recognizing it as a weapon. Because whether you're ready or not, the battle has already started, and standing unarmed is not an option. We've been taught to see faith as comfort, as something soft and soothing, but faith is also strategy. Faith is also warfare. And if you don't understand that, you'll keep approaching life as if the attacks against you are coincidences instead of intentional. You'll keep treating spiritual warfare like it's imaginary, while the enemy is counting on you to stay naive. But hear me, when you carry the Spirit of God, you are a target. And targets cannot afford to walk around uncovered. The armor of God isn't some poetic idea. It's survival. It's the strength you need when fear comes knocking. It's the clarity you need when deception starts to sound like truth. It's the endurance you need when the weight of life tries to crush you. Prayer isn't just communication. It's protection. Discernment isn't just wisdom. It's strategy. Trust in God isn't just belief. It's a shield. And right now, those who are walking without their armor are walking exposed. The battle is not just in the obvious chaos. It's in your thoughts, in your habits, in your choices. The enemy knows if he can get your mind, he can weaken your spirit. That's why the helmet of salvation matters. That's why you've got to guard your heart with the breastplate of righteousness. Because once your heart becomes contaminated, your vision gets distorted. That's why your feet need to be fitted with the readiness of the gospel of peace. Because storms will come, but peace will anchor you when everything else is shaking. Every piece of that armor matters because every piece covers a place the enemy is trying to exploit. This is not about fear. It's about awareness. Because when you know you're in a battle, you move differently. You stop wasting time on things that don't matter. You stop letting distractions strip you of focus. You stop giving casual access to people and places that weaken your spirit. You start living intentional because you understand your survival depends on it. You start praying differently, not just to check it off a list, but to build a fortress around your soul. You start worshiping differently, not just singing words, but breaking chains with your sound. Too many of us have been waiting for someone else to cover us, waiting for someone else to fight for us, waiting for someone else to put on armor on our behalf. But there comes a moment when you've got to decide, am I going to stay exposed or am I going to suit up? Because no one else can put on your armor for you. No one else can fight your battles the way you can fight them in the spirit. And no one else can stand in your place when the shaking intensifies. And here's the truth. God never promised we wouldn't face battles. He never said the attacks wouldn't come. What he promised is that he's given us the weapons to endure them, to overcome them, to stand firm when everything else falls apart. That's why you can't afford to stay passive. That's why you can't afford to keep your armor in the closet and act like the fight isn't real. Because every day you delay is another day you're vulnerable. This is the time to sharpen your sword in the word of God. This is the time to strengthen your shield with radical trust. This is the time to pray until heaven responds, until the atmosphere shifts, until your spirit is fortified. Because what's coming will not be survived with shallow faith, but with soldiers who know how to stand clothed in the armor of God. So don't wait for the battle to knock on your door before you get dressed. Suit up now, because it has already started. There comes a point when the line is no longer blurred, when you can no longer hide in the middle, when you can no longer pretend you don't see what's happening around you. We are in that moment right now. The shaking that has already started is revealing who is serious about their faith and who has been sitting comfortably as a spectator. And I don't say that to condemn. I say it to warn. Because this isn't the season where you can afford to sit back and clap from the sidelines. This is the season where the difference between standing and falling will come down to whether you are anchored in truth or floating on routine. Spectators love the feeling of the crowd. They know the songs, they know the language, they know how to blend in. But when the storm breaks, blending in won't keep you standing. When the pressure rises, routine won't protect you. When the shaking intensifies, surface level faith will be exposed for what it is, fragile and temporary. And that's why God is drawing a line, not to shame anybody, but to awaken his people, to separate those who are willing to go deeper from those who are content with shallow waters. If we're honest, being a spectator is easier. It doesn't demand much. You can enjoy the moment without the cost of commitment. You can ride the wave without ever planting roots. You can clap, sing, nod, and still leave unchanged. But the shaking has come to confront that, because casual faith will not carry you through spiritual warfare. Surface religion will not protect you when the fire hits. Spectator faith sounds good until you need real power. And then you realize clapping isn't enough. The serious ones, though, the ones anchored in truth, they may not always be loud, but they are rooted. They may not be perfect, but they are planted. When the winds come, they bend but don't break. When the storms rage, they struggle but still stand. Because their faith isn't built on performance. It's built on a person. Their trust isn't based on convenience. It's anchored in covenant. And those are the ones who will endure when the line is drawn. This is why the call feels heavier now. Why you can sense the urgency in the spirit. Because God is not just gathering a crowd. He's raising an army. And armies are not made of spectators. Armies are made of soldiers who know how to stand, how to fight, how to endure. Soldiers who have chosen discipline over distraction, devotion over convenience, commitment over comfort. Soldiers who understand that faith is not entertainment, it's empowerment. And let me tell you, this separation is not about appearances. It's about authenticity. You can't fake endurance. You can't pretend strength when the battle gets real. You can't rely on yesterday's performance when today's fire is burning. The separation is happening because God loves us too much to let us settle for empty routines. He's calling us to a faith that's alive, that's resilient, that can withstand the shaking. So if you've been on the sidelines, if you've been satisfied with routine, if you've been content just blending in, this is your invitation. This is the moment to cross the line, to step into the seriousness of your calling, to move from casual to committed, from spectator to soldier. Because when the line is drawn, and it already is, you don't want to be caught undecided. The ones who are serious may look strange to the world. They may be mocked. They may be misunderstood, but they will endure. They will be the ones still standing when everything else falls away. They will be the ones carrying peace in chaos, light in darkness, hope in despair. And when the world is looking for answers, they won't find them in spectators. They'll find them in the serious ones who dared to stand. So hear me clearly, the separation has already begun. The line is already drawn. And where you stand will determine if you endure. Pressure has a way of making us uncomfortable, but it also has a way of revealing what's really inside of us. Nobody likes the weight. Nobody likes the stretching. Nobody likes the fire. But if you've walked with God long enough, you know that pressure is never wasted. The very thing you think is going to break you is often the thing that positions you to see God in a way you've never seen Him before. And that's why I need you to understand that even in the middle of everything that has already started, there is still a promise inside the pressure. See, pressure exposes, but it also produces. It pulls back the layers of who we pretend to be and forces us to face who we really are. It takes off the mask of performance. It strips away the surface level faith. And it shows us the strength we didn't even know was planted within us. Some of the greatest revelations of who God has come not in comfort, but in chaos. Not in ease, but in endurance. Not when everything makes sense, but when nothing does, and yet you're still standing. We spend so much time asking God to remove the pressure when sometimes He's allowing the pressure to reveal His promise. Because the pressure you're under is proof that there's something inside of you worth refining. Diamonds don't form without pressure. Oil doesn't flow without pressing. Growth doesn't come without stretching. And right now, even though it feels heavy, even though it feels like too much, God is using it to pull something out of you that comfort could never have produced. The enemy wants you to believe the pressure means God has abandoned you. But the opposite is true. The pressure is evidence that God is close, that He's preparing you, that He's strengthening you for what's ahead, because He knows what's coming and He knows what you'll need to withstand it. So while you see pressure as punishment, God sees it as preparation. While you feel it as heaviness, heaven sees it as a birthing. Something new is coming forth, but it can't come without the weight. And I know it doesn't feel good. I know it feels like you're being stretched past your limit, like you're being tested in ways you never imagined, like you're carrying more than you can handle. But haven't you noticed that the moments you thought would destroy you are the very moments you walked away stronger? Haven't you realized that the nights you cried out, God, I can't take another step, are the same nights He carried you through? The fact that you're still here is proof that pressure doesn't get the final say. God does. That's why you can't despise this season. Don't curse the weight when it's actually shaping you. Don't run from the fire when it's purifying you. Don't resist the stretching when it's preparing you. Because the pressure you feel today is tied to the promise you'll see tomorrow. And when the shaking of this world keeps intensifying, it will not be the comfortable who endure. It will be the ones who let the pressure push them closer to God. There's a strength being developed in you that distraction couldn't give you, that routine couldn't form in you, that casual faith couldn't birth in you. This strength comes from pressing in when it would have been easier to give up. This strength comes from holding on when everything in you wanted to let go. This strength comes from discovering that when you don't have anything else left, God is still enough. So yes, the days are heavy. Yes, the alarms are sounding. Yes, it feels like the world is shaking beneath your feet. But don't let the pressure fool you into thinking you're alone. The same God who promised never to leave you is walking with you through every step of it. And when it's all said and done, when the smoke clears and the storm passes, you'll look back and realize the pressure didn't destroy you. It revealed you. So hold on, because the promise is in the pressure and it has already started. ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info.